Hello, today is February 9th, 2022, and I'd like to talk about the light and dark, in Japanese called Meian, which is the last fiction of the by the Natsume Soseki Natsume, and it is like 188 instrument. This is, I think, 1916. I think May or something. He started to contribute those everyday serial fiction to the Asahi newspaper, and so it's the whole year, 1916 May to December. This one is 188 installment, and that's almost like a chapter, and like this, and so it's like 2 pages to 3 pages each one. It's very convenient to read it, because you just finish the chapters, and then you can have a close, and then you go back to the chapter after that. So, and also this picture, I think this is the original Asahi newspaper's illustration of the serial fiction, and it's very nice. It's depicting the whole installment atmosphere here, and so this is very nice. I was amazed to see this is like a masterpiece by him. I read the all these Sanshiro, Sorekara, Mon, and Kokoro, and Kusamakura, and a minor, and so forth. And I think this is, I would say, the best among them, because it's very complex and a very psychological thriller. And it's about this particular protagonist, who is probably late 20s to early 30s. His name is Tsuda. Tsuda is, I think, pretty much kind of a wealthy family son, and at this late, I think he got married with this Onobu, who is also kind of a wealthy, I would say, spoiled woman, I would say. But they got married, happily married, and at the beginning, it started with this Tsuda's surgery. He had some conditions that you have to do a surgery, minor surgery, I would say, because this surgery is taking place at a clinic, and it turns out he had to stay there for a week or so in there. And so the beginning that Tsuda's surgery schedules and going through that and so forth, and then during that time, it's story shift focused on the wife, Onobu, and she is more or less like kind of a I don't know. It's kind of a I don't say conniving, but her psychology was depicted in that particular portion. It's like a middle, the early to middle half of it is like her story of trying to analyze the other people. She also very independent herself, although the traditional Japanese wife, she should be more dedicated to the husband. And the husband is also more lenient for Onobu's independence. And so he let her do whatever she wants to, so forth. And also they are suffering financially, and in the beginning they are cut off the financial support from the parents of Tsuda. They are getting a financial support for some reason, and very wealthy kids. Therefore, they're kind of well-to-do family. But the father of Tsuda decided not to support him because everybody else is kind of telling father that Orobu is very spoiled and spending lots of money, playing all these things that the father got to hear, and so they stopped financial support there. And so Orobu herself is trying to satisfy her own desire, her own happiness. And one of the part is like she went to right after the surgery of husband. He said, "Oh, okay, you can go because you planned on it." And so she goes to the theater, but the theater supposed to be, long descriptions of this particular family she went with, and the jealousies, all these things happening there. But after a while, it's coming back to Tsuda, and his psychology was something like he's hiding from his wife, and but that started to bother him. But still, he's trying to make everything calm and peaceful. But toward the end, it's going to break that particular thing. But he's trying to maintain. So all along, very suspenseful, psychologically suspenseful fiction there, and it's very easy to read. This particular translation is by John Nathan, and I think that's relatively recent translation. I think 2016 or 2014, copyrighted 2014 translation. And translation is, I think, pretty good, but I still feel like this. I never read the Japanese versions of this, so I don't know how well he translated, but I could tell here and there that some translation could be a little bit mistranslated. For example, like you have a wishing star, shooting star, you wish something there, and that particular part is like in this particular English translation, but not the shooting star, not the comet either. I think author Natsume, I think without me reading the original, I'm guessing, but I think he intended to write either comet or shooting star. But this particular translator translated to Mercury. Mercury is like one of the planets, and we never wish during the Mercury was there or anything. Even though Mercury's stay there very early morning or early evening, very, very briefly because cross the sun. But you don't make a wish. But I'm not sure that is wrong translation or correct translation. I'd like to know if you know that particular Japanese text. In some part, I think these kids talking about this wishing, this shooting star or Mercury or the comet. I really think either I think it's comet or the shooting star. That's more reasonable for me. But anyway, so this translation I think pretty good. I think enjoyable. Some part is kind of more difficult compared to like a J. Rubin's. I just read J. Rubin's Minor. That's also recently translated. That translation is very, very easy to read, and very, very nice. But this one is a little bit more difficult to read because of the words he uses and the way he describes things. It's kind of a bit convoluted, but I think it's still a very good translation. So I would say this is like a Soseki's masterpiece. Soseki wrote this at the the last year of his life, 1916, I think this particular serial he was writing when he is suffering from the, whatever his conditions, and but he died toward the end of the 1916, and so apparently this one was, it says here, unfinished. It says here unfinished. And so this one is unfinished fiction. However, when I read this, I think it's almost like a finished fiction. I don't have any dissatisfactions of the ending. I feel like the story is going toward the direction that I wished it would go, and very satisfactory finish. So I don't consider this necessarily unfinished. For some authors today, like Haruki Murakami's fiction, I think this could be finished fiction because of the story's developments here. And I like that. But nonetheless, this one is very, very suspenseful. The psychological suspense is tremendous. When you start to read, you cannot stop it because it's a page turner as well, and a very convoluted story that each part is more or less like it's going somewhere, and you really cannot stop reading because it's going somewhere, more bigger stories and so forth. But here and there, I think those stories kind of stop there and it goes to other stories and other developments. And so all along, I think it's going towards something, and also the big secrets of this protagonist is going to be revealed later. And that particular part is almost like things like a Sorekara, and then his trilogy, or the trilogy, I think it's more or less like that. It's going toward the end, it's like a big liberation of the story, and tremendously suspenseful, urgent conclusion there. So this one is like that. And so I really enjoy this. If for the non-Japanese reader, I really strongly recommend, and Japanese reader too, strongly recommend to read this. This is the largest volume of the fiction. I think it's longer than I Am the Cat. I Am the Cat is the first fiction that he wrote 10 years prior to his death. But this is the last fiction and the biggest fiction, and I think this very, very his masterpiece, I would say. So I really recommend for anybody to read this. It's called Light and Dark, and in Japanese, May Are, and wonderful book. So I love this book. Get